Greetings to you amid this tumultuous and righteous time of change. We are thrilled about the tides of rising awareness and activism. We are also dismayed at the violence. And we are also hopeful about the future, while still knowing that it requires, as it always has, all of us, more of us, actively serving the cause of love. And we also know this is a time of stress. High stress on the energy beings that we are. In other words, on the mind, the body, the spirit. Well, in times of distress, the basics serve us the best. So in this episode, we are going back to the basics of energy.
I'm Sienna.
And I'm Toast.
We've been partners in life, love, and music since 2001. And we believe life is best lived as a love story. Your love story.
After all, to love well is to live well. For more, check out siennaandtoast.com. But for now, here's this episode. And welcome to it. We have the
Welcome to it.
We have the decaf coffee.
We have the decaf iced coffee going. In the last episode, we talked about how it's more important than ever to truly continue putting your art in the world, to continue expressing expressing love in the world, creating beauty in the world, and just how important that is. However, I do have to say it's been challenging to even do those things.
Yes.
It's really been challenging. And
I think an example of that is how I had, my birthday this past week.
I know. Toast's birthday was on June 3rd.
And it was great. And I had several friends very, nicely text me or reach out and like, oh, I hope you're able to have a happy birthday with all that's going on. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. And of course. And it's very, very conscious and upfront in my mind that every moment and expression of love and creating beauty in an intentional way is a finger in the face of authoritarianism and oppression. Love and beauty is an energetic force for good. And so participate in it, create it, revel in it, celebrate it. That is part of being an intentional human being on the side of love. Mm-hmm. So don't give in to this idea of like, oh, I can't enjoy my life when, other people are going through such and such, or it's such a stressful time. I can't, it's wrong for me to enjoy. No, it's important for you to enjoy.
As much as you can.
Right. While remaining conscious and aware, of course.
Yes.
But you're inflicting any kind of self-suffering and all of that. That's not gonna help.
Right. Yeah, and I think that the problem I've been having is not feeling as focused as I normally feel.
Yeah.
So I'm so distracted by everything that's going on. I intend to look for okay, let me just see what's happening today. Then I go down this rabbit hole.
Sure.
So then it's like getting out of the rabbit hole and then, regrouping and refocusing again.
Yeah, and it's about engaging with it in a way that doesn't bring you down, because
that doesn't take your whole day away.
Right. So where you don't make yourself into a casualty.
Right.
And weaken the energy that you're able to bring to the righteous fight.
So we will continue on with our mission.
That's right.
But before we get into what we wanted to talk about today, which is really just going back to the basics, the very basics of energy. I think
it's a life preserver for us now.
Yes.
On a personal level.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before we go back to that, I wanted to share with everyone that I made the lemon cake.
She sure did, folks.
And I promise you, after this episode, you won't have to be hearing about cake, what cake we're going to make, which cake we're going to make, what cake we ended up making, and then another cake, and so on. But it came out really good.
Oh my gosh.
It's not my
so
recipe.
good.
It came out really good. And I just have to say that it's a keeper. And we'll post, oh, wait, maybe the picture. I think the picture of this episode is going to be the cake, right?
Yeah, we can take.
So if you saw that picture, then that is
That's the cake.
That's the cake.
With
It was
3
lemon
hearts
cake.
on it.
So that's the update on that. And
And it turned out to be lemon and orange.
oh, lemon and
Because-
orange. Yeah, because we didn't have enough lemons.
But I love the taste that it produced. Like when I'm eating the cake, I feel like I can taste the lemon combined with orange. And
Wow.
I love it. So thank you so much, Sienna, for making that cake. It was a lot of work. It was like double boiler stuff.
It said it was for a beginner, but I think it was a little medium, like intermediate.
Yeah, intermediate
kind of skill.
at least, I think.
But so we did the cake, and then that happened on Saturday. Toast's birthday was the Wednesday prior, and on that day, I made Toast a nice pan of fresh brownies. Just because you can't go your birthday without any,
That's how Sienna feels.
without any sweet
And
yummy
I'm
thing.
grateful that she felt that way.
And I put nuts in it. I don't eat brownies with nuts.
Brownies
but
with walnuts.
I put walnuts in it.
And I ate half the pan.
She ate half the pan. A 9 by 13 pan, people.
Not in one
Not
day.
an 8 by 8
But still.
in like 3 days.
But you have to tell them how these brownies are special.
Oh my God, they're so healthy and good for you.
Which
I
is
mean,
why I
they're
could
not good
justify
for you.
eating half the pan.
They're not like, oh, these are so good for you. But for a sweet treat, it's actually a whole food recipe. So everything in it is something that your body can recognize. And so therefore won't set your body off into inflammation land and you can't eat it anymore. So anyhow. All right.
That's Sienna's specialty,
So
is to
that's-
make treat, like really delicious, indulgent, decadent tasting treats that are not necessarily so bad for you. Like they're made with
try.
almond flour.
Well,
and-
because I love those things. So it's very selfish of me because
and lucky for me.
I want to be able to eat those things. Okay. But then we also should tell them about the new ghost in our house.
Sienna and I
Oh my goodness.
have noticed separately.
Yeah,
Not while we're
separately.
together, but each of us individually has been able to confirm that, yes, we have
There's a new ghost.
caught sight of some kind of ghost cat in our house that does a pretty good imitation of Bear, our cat.
But it's not Bear. Yep.
And how this happens is, for example, the other day, I was sitting at my desk doing some work. And I could have sworn I saw Bear, our gray cat, kind of walk from the doorway of the office behind my desk. And I wasn't sure if it was Bear or if it was the ghost cat. So what did I do? I stood up and I peeked around the back of my desk.
And there was no cat. There was no bear. Just ghost cat.
At which point I assumed, well,
It's a
that's the ghost cat.
Yeah. And I've been in the kitchen cooking, and Bear was downstairs in the garage, and I thought I saw Bear upstairs in the pantry. So I'm like, oh, he came up already. I should go down and close the garage door. So I finished what I was doing, and then I was about to go downstairs to close the garage door, but here's little Mr. Jingle Jangles with his collar jingling up the stairs. And so it was not Bear
Not Bear in the pantry.
in the pantry. And then we've had other sightings.
Yeah.
I think like several other
Just out
sightings.
of the corner of your eye kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, where'd he come from? And also, too, if you've been a listener for a long time, I don't think we covered it. Well, in the house we were at in California, we had another ghost cat there from like day one.
Yes.
That cat, where you had to like you stepped over it in the middle of the night because you thought it was cumin,
Right.
but it disappeared, and you're like, oh, that wasn't cumin. Poof.
Right.
So, anyways, just thought you all would want to know about our ghost cat.
And we haven't decided firmly whether we're going to like Sage to
I
ask
think it's fine.
him to leave or them to leave.
He can stay.
Okay.
I think he can stay. You know, if he starts knocking things down in front of our,
Then we have to
then
ask
that's a little
for-
scary.
Yeah.
So
Then it's called a poltergeist, right? I think that's the word.
So I think we will keep him.
Okay.
That's the kind of cats you like, right?
Poltergeist cats?
You don't want
No,
more
I don't want
cats.
poltergeist cats.
No, you don't want more. You don't want me to have more real cats. You want me to have ghost cats.
At this point, I would say that works better for us.
Or I'd love to have more cats. I need more cats. I need kittens. I need a litter of kittens that I can foster from early on
and then keep.
and then end up keeping them.
So not foster.
Well,
but
foster to
raise.
start. Let me make sure they're good ones.
Oh, okay. I see.
And then fall in love with them and train them really, really well from the start.
That's a good plan.
And then keep them.
Yeah.
That's what I would like. And then 2 dogs. But
I can see that happening. I can see that happening in the future.
All right. Don't make promises you can't keep.
I can see it happening. I can.
All right. Okay. Why don't we move on?
Basics of energy.
All right.
So what inspired this is, our interest in being a presence that is helpful and encouraging, comforting and supportive to you on an individual level. And during this time of high stress, we recognize that the stress is, in the broadest sense of the term, the stress is because of all of the very intense energies that have been ramped up in our society and around us, and of course in our individual lives, but yes, as society as a whole.
And it's our response to the stress that is.
And our interactions with them. We can't help but interact with them on some level because we are a part of this society. But I'm talking about, for example, the energy of guilt, the energy of defensiveness, the energy of rage, the energy of, violence, unfortunately. And the energy of awareness, of conviction, So I'm not saying that they're all bad energies, right? Being convicted of something, and I'm talking about that in the sense of recognizing our own participation in systems of oppression as being one way of being convicted of something on the inside. They're not all bad or anything, but it's intense. There's a lot going on. So,
Especially coming off of COVID.
well, we're not even off of
Yeah,
COVID.
we're not even off,
It's
but
still
just
on,
that that's
so
still-
everything. I mean, we could go on and with the energies
And
of
not
fear
being with
and-
people.
right?
Of
fear,
all
energy
of,
of
that, just
isolation,
being in
of
your own.
loneliness, So
I mean, it's so much. It's so much.
And everybody knows it's so much, right? So what we want to do
So much.
is just acknowledge that and then offer some words and some direction about what we can do just on an individual, personal, private level to cultivate health in our own energy bodies. And one way of doing that,
Well, I think something that's really important to start with is to know not only who you are, but who you want to be. What kind of
Yes.
person do you want to be?
what are you about?
Yeah.
What are your
because
core values?
We might think we know, but to truly take some time to get clarity around that and write it down and really be with that, I think is so important because when you clarify that, then everything you decide to do or not do can come from that place. Does it support the person I am? I truly am. And I know that we're always changing. So who you are will also change. But it's really good to check in with that piece. And sometimes I think it takes that in order to kind of jar us out of maybe a way of being that we've been that isn't aligned with who we know we truly are.
Yes. And sometimes the reason we feel terrible is because we know that we are out of alignment with who we are or who we want to be. And sometimes I also think that feeling of distress and dissatisfaction and frustration with yourself can also, though, be because you think you need to be a certain person. Erroneously. Like that's an erroneous, it's not about who you think you need to be.
Your
right?
arm gestures, I feel like you're going to whack this coffee off.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'll dial back the arm gestures. But I
Very
think
expressive.
But I think, I feel like I experienced that in the past more so.
Do you want me to move this?
It's like, no, I'm
Are you sure?
not
Here, let me just
gesturing with my arm.
No. Now you can gesture freely.
Okay.
There we
Now
go.
watch my
You
arm
have your
wave
whole
around.
wingspan.
We need a video podcast. But you know what I mean?
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And also too, sometimes I think the discontent can come from, hey, you know who you are, but there is this feeling of dissatisfaction because you're ready now to grow into your next way of being.
Next evolution.
Yeah. Whatever that might be.
Right.
So I think it's also important to remember that all the conditions, there are so many variables. So just to take that into consideration from the start, there are so many variables that can affect us, like the conditions in the world, right? All these external things, news, more facts, the fact that you can basically look anything up, can contribute to it. Social media, especially of late, and the tone of that. Your own habits, habits that maybe you would like to change at some point.
Like too much caffeine.
Right? Too much caffeine. And people, whether it's your family.
Yes.
I bring up family because we don't necessarily choose our, I was going to say biological family, but for some people it's not their biology, right? It's not their biological families, but people that are in our lives that we might not necessarily choose to be in our lives, but they are in our lives, and
right.
we
Your
are
neighbors.
working with it. True. Your neighbors, all of those things, all of this has an effect on us.
Right.
All of that is energy that is impacting our own energy. And when you think about that and you step away for a bit and you just think about that alone is overwhelming.
Like it's kind of amazing that
it's amazing we can function.
I was going to say,
really?
Yes, I was going to say it's kind of amazing that we still, in that scenario, which is the scenario of reality, where it's like, hey, you're born into this world, you're plopped down into all kinds of circumstances and relationships that you had no conscious choice over.
Yeah.
And yet, what's fantastic and amazing is that you as an individual also have been given the ability to exercise authority and control over a meaningful aspect of your energy.
Yeah.
Despite being subject to all these external forces.
Yes, that is absolutely true. So one statement that really helps me, and I think for all of us, maybe it really is to remember
Oh,
what's helpful to you. And I think we've brought that up in the past several podcasts because in the flurry of it all, you can so easily forget.
Yes.
And then when you remember what you learned, you're like, oh yeah, that was a good one.
Right. Because, this whole information age and age of big
there's
data,
so much.
this flood of stuff. It's like, well, what about this? What about this tip? What about that course? What about this seminar? What about that book? What about that? It's like, come on. We don't need more information. What we do need exactly is what you said. We just need reminders about the basics.
Yep. Because, and we did a podcast about this, you can be addicted to learning all of this stuff.
Yep.
You get a hit from like, oh, I'm going to try this thing. And oh my God, this is new. And it's just this high that you get. And you can fool yourself by, oh, look at me. I am, I'm so into all these things and I'm learning all these things, but you never allow yourself the time and space to practice it.
Right.
You're just hopping from one thing, hopping from one modality to another modality, or one author to another author, or a school of thought to another school of thought. And it's like, okay, I don't know. That sounds crazy at some point. But the statement, the reminder that helps me is to remember that all energy, and we're talking about yourself, so how you feel, right? All energy is self-generated. No one can make you feel anything. And I think that most people know that by now, but it's very challenging to really take that in and go, really?
That's a tough one.
So how I feel is self-generated, but that person did this. Or, well, you don't understand because my situation is this. And so to remember that all energy is self-generated, I think is important.
I think that's a high bar. It feels like, that's like, to me, that's like Buddha level.
Well, I think I hear what you're saying, and I think it's still just okay, let me tell you what that statement does for me.
Okay.
It's just a reminder that I have more power than any way I'm acting in any given moment.
Okay.
It just reminds me of my own self-power that I can forget, in depending on the day. I can forget for 90% of my interactions that day, or maybe, maybe it's a good day and I'm on, whatever percent, but it just reminds me like, okay, you know what? I'm not a victim. I can do something about this. Energy is always changing and shifting and transforming and transmuting, that I just have to remember that I play this role in generating the energy that I'm feeling. So, and again, like we close the podcast out with, it's not about perfection, and it's not about being Buddha, really, right? I mean, unless I guess that could be some people's path, right? But so remembering that all energy is self-generated, I think is a nice thing, and to maybe put that on a Post-it on your desk, on your computer, wherever it is, on your setting a reminder, and having that jump up on your screen every now and then, I think could be helpful for people who are resonating with that statement.
Yeah, I hear that.
So with that, and we've shared this in another podcast before, but again, going back to basics. So just remembering that all energy is self-generated, and it all starts with our thinking. It is what we're thinking that leads and lends itself to the feeling. So the thought is before the feeling. Thinking before feeling. So if you are feeling like crap or whatever it might be, or, just down, or all of a sudden you check in with yourself and you're like, oh my God, I feel why do I feel this way, or whatever it might be, if you can trace your thoughts back, you will find what that is. Oh, wow, that thing that someone said that I thought was fine, but is still bothering me. So don't forget that it starts with your thinking, and shifting your thinking whenever it is not helping to produce feelings that are aligned with who you know to be is the next step. So shifting the thinking.
And that's the work.
And that part, my friends, is rigorous.
Look at you with your hand gestures.
I know. Thank God I moved my coffee. It's rigorous. It's full of effort. It's not easy. Okay. Now we don't have to go, oh, it's so hard all the time. But that's where the work comes in. And it can feel like work. And depending on how your day has been, up to the point where you are shifting your thinking, that will help inform if it's going to be easier or more.
A question that
rigorous.
I found helpful to ask myself to get out of a unproductive spiral of thought and feeling is to ask myself, are you willing to not feel this way?
Yes.
Because I feel like a lot of times especially if I'm feeling like self-righteous or judgmental, and I want to be right, or I want to point to somebody else and blame them, for example, right? Or if I want to stress out about something and worry, because that feels like, well, there's something to worry about here, so I better worry about it. Otherwise, it's never going to get solved. Sometimes I tell myself that. I find it has been helpful to ask myself, are you willing to not feel that way? In other words, instead of forcing myself to, well, no, be loving, feel loving, or, hey, just don't worry about it. Just be calm. Right? Instead of serving up this new feeling that I'm supposed to just can I just let go? Can I just surrender the feeling?
Yeah.
The unproductive feeling.
Yeah, I think that's great, because what you're essentially doing is just creating an opening. You're not going from 0 to 100, right? You're not going from Crabby Appleton to, Pollyanna.
Right. Crabby Appleton. I'm Crabby Appleton.
And so you're just like, okay, am I willing? And once you're willing, it drops, like things drop down. You can feel it in your body.
Yeah, the intensity
like,
just kind of dissipates a little bit.
I'm willing.
Exactly, exactly.
And you don't have to be, yes, I'm open. It's like, no, if you're willing, like to be willing takes like how much? Like this much, right?
It feels like it takes
like
less.
a little bitty boop. It's just a boop.
A little boop. It's kind of like forgiveness, right? It's like,
yes,
well, forgive this person, forgive them. Instead of being like, well, no, you have to forgive. It's like, no, are you just willing to forgive?
Yes. But see, forgiveness is a whole other slippery slope, because so much of forgiveness is less about that person.
Right.
It's it has so much to do with yourself and not that other person. Okay. So let's just
bringing it back to the Crabby
continuing
Appletons.
It. Okay. So so if you're a person who likes steps, I'm going to give you some quick steps. Okay. So we already talked about 100 times already, all energy is self-generated. So now our thing is to pay attention. Throughout the day, pay attention and notice what you notice. Okay? So that would be step 1. Notice what you notice. If you are noticing, like if you're noticing, oh my God, this job, all these people I have to work with, oh my God, I just can't stand it.
Customers.
Or, these people, like I just... say if it's work and it's so stressful and all this stuff is happening, or another meeting like the last podcast, right? Right. Oh my God. So I am noticing what I notice, which is I am noticing that I'm resisting I'm having resistance to this meeting. I am noticing how my body feels quite tense in this moment about this meeting. I'm noticing that my breath is a little short, and I'm noticing that I am not feeling good, and I'm feeling pretty angry and grouchy about this situation. So notice what you notice. You don't judge it. You just notice what it is. How are you feeling? What are you doing? So once you notice that, step 2 would be, okay, let's loosen this up. Because now, in noticing what you notice, and you notice all those feelings, and how your body feels, and what your thoughts are, you're now in that fight or flight situation. Mm-hmm. So we want to loosen that up and take some deep breaths. You don't have to follow any specific kind of breathing. Some people want very specific things, but really all you want to do is take some deep belly breaths, deep breathing. We did share box breathing. So you could, if you want more specifics, just take a deep inhale through your nose for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, exhale through the mouth, 4 counts, take a rest, 4 counts. Do it all over again. Okay? So you're calming your nervous system in this moment. Okay? Then step 3 is the part that we talked about, which is that tends to be rigorous. It's shifting the thinking. So in step 3, you're deciding, or as Toast would say, am I willing to shift my thoughts in this moment? Am I willing to do that? So if that's yes, then in step 3, you're deciding to shift your thoughts. And this is an important part, step 3, because what you're actually doing is you're interrupting the old paradigm. Meaning, if we're taking the job example, the old paradigm of thinking, oh my God, this job, oh my God, I can't take another meeting, and just having the same framework around this job.
Yeah, for example, if you want a visual of this, if you imagine yourself as a dog and you have your teeth and your mouth on a bone and you're just on that bone, and the bone is how you're feeling. It's how you're thinking. And you just want to get to the point where you, the dog, can just stop biting down on the bone. That's all.
I like that. That's good. See, that made me feel very relaxed.
Just stop biting down on the bone. You can relax your jaw.
Yeah.
Just, stop biting down on the bone.
Okay. So that was step 3. So you're interrupting the paradigm. You're interrupting the old habit, the old way of thinking. And then, very important, you move on to step 4. So you don't leave it just open like that. You just shift the thinking. What is the new thinking? That's number 4.
And introduce a treat.
Introduce a treat. So number 4 is now bringing in a new way of thinking. What is the new paradigm? You insert that into, you don't just leave it empty. You insert that into your thinking pattern, your whole being. And sometimes this part can be tricky because you may not believe your paradigm yet. So if your paradigm is something like, if the new paradigm, I'm talking about the new paradigm, if your new paradigm is something about, you're not going to necessarily jump to something like, oh, I love my job, right? Because
don't be a liar to yourself.
So you're not looking for something that's,
you know what it is, I think?
What?
This might be the place and the step where the original point comes back in. And the original point being, who do you want to be? Who are you?
Who do you want to be?
Really?
Yes. And that's what, so I was going to bring that up in another part, but yes. So we can move that to step 4.
Like, how does that person feel?
An I am statement, like having an I am statement at the ready of who you know yourself to be. So it's bringing that in. And what's great about having that is then you always have a new paradigm to insert no matter what's going on.
Right.
Because you're going back to who you truly are.
Right.
So whatever that I am statement is. However, in addition to inserting that new paradigm of the I am statement, it is also really powerful to add gratitude for the situation. So saying, you know, I am a powerful spiritual being. I remember that all energy is self-generated. What's important to me is acting from love. And I am so grateful for having a regular paycheck. You know, something that can be tied into the original situation.
Yes.
Because whatever the original situation is or the old paradigm, there is something there where there is a gratitude lining. There is something there.
And the person that you want to be, the person that you know you are at the very, very essence and core of your being.
Would recognize that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that would be step 4.
So let's recap really quick.
Yeah. Okay.
Step 1.
Okay. So step 1, notice what you notice.
Okay. So self-aware of how you're feeling physically, even sometimes it manifests, right? Physically or emotionally or mentally, your thoughts. Okay. That's step 1.
Number 2, do some deep breathing. It can be box breathing, and that is to release your nervous system, to start letting go. And you need to spend some time in step 2. You know, it's not like just taking 3 deep breaths. Yeah. It's like really sit there and do it, you know.
Like 5 rounds of box breathing.
Yeah, because
to start.
What's so great about all of this is free, right? You don't,
right.
You don't
it's
have to
nature.
And if we can cultivate this habit, just this 4-step habit, I mean, what will there be that we can't do? So.
Okay, so that was 2.
Step 2. Then step 3, there's like a 3A and a 3B. So 3A would be, am I willing to shift this? Then B would be recognizing that decision. Like, okay, yes, I am. I am willing.
Okay.
Are you willing? Yes, I am willing. So you're making the decision to interrupt the old paradigm. And then you move on to step 4 and you insert what is the new paradigm. And that would be your I am statement, going back to who you truly know to be and connecting that I am statement to a gratitude statement.
And right there, those steps, that really is like your own personal mini revolution. Because you're overthrowing one way of thinking and seeing and feeling. And you're installing a new authority there.
Yes. And here's what's so important. The more you work with who you know you are, who you know you want to be in the world, the more you work with that and the more you can really bring your senses to it. And even for the people who are really visual, conjure up images of that person, it's going to be way easier to bring that energy into these moments, to insert this new paradigm, where that new paradigm will no longer be new.
Right.
You know, you will have a new growing edge, but it's going to be so much easier to do it. So really working with who you know yourself to be is so important. And here's the thing. So after doing this exercise, and now I'm back in the meeting, right? Taking that example, I'm back in the meeting. So things around me may not immediately shift, right? The players are still the same. The people are still there. But what has changed is the energy from which I'm coming from now. I'm coming to the meeting from a different vibration, from a different frequency. I am coming to the meeting differently. So with that, how I interact in the meeting is going to be different.
Right.
I will be less reactive in the meeting. I mean, so many things. I will
So
leave the
many
meeting
things.
feeling less drained. I mean, so much. So it's really less about having the things around you change in order for you to change. It's changing yourself as best as you can as the primary first thing in order to then have that trickle out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as you described that, it actually reminds me of the experience that my personal experience, anyways, of coming out as a gay person. Because for me, the most memorable, most impactful experience didn't involve anything external at all. It involved how I saw myself, how I saw my relationship with my community and society and the world and my place in the world and my place in history. I mean, and that was huge. That was huge. And I'm sure that somebody listening to this can relate to that. You know, that's the shift. It's the internal. And you're right, it does eventually affect the external.
Yep. It really does, because then, you know, as you consistently vibrate at a different level, you will call to yourself different experiences because those experiences will now be at that level. Not all experiences, because we are always growing and changing and things, but what you experience will also change.
Yes.
You won't have to experience the same things over and over and over because you are learning the lesson in what and how you need to grow, how we need to grow.
All right. So we hope that this discussion and these reminders, really, they may very likely just be reminders for you.
Oh, yeah.
They are for us.
People know this.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
but
reminders
it's
for
like,
us.
it's good to hear it.
Exactly. All right. So I guess we'll wrap it up for now and send you off with our best, most heartfelt wishes that you take care of yourself, that you put this into practice, that you most of all, that you benefit from it or something like it. We are all about just supporting you in your personal life and living your life as a love story. But of course, remember, progress, not perfection. It's a practice. It's not a perfection. Okay. Until next time,
This is Sienna.
and this is Toast, inviting you and encouraging you to, as always, live your